Alright, so let's create a component with React. Let's create a function. You know how to create functions, you know how to move functions to new files. We've been talking about all these things. But let me present you a problem. Imagine that I want to create a function called, I don't know, click count. I want to see how many times a user can click on a button in a minute, yeah, or something like that. I don't know. I just want to display a button. And then I want to inform, I want to tell the user, you click on the button 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, whatever. Yeah? So technically speaking, the process will be you create a function like the one you can see on my screen, and then you will, let me zoom it in a bit, and then you will return. So the idea, again, this is not going to be okay, but I'm trying to approach the problem step by step. So my idea is I want to have a button, and then the text on the button will be something like increase the counter, and then I will have some sort of message. So you've clicked count times. So then my plan is to do let count equals 0. You see, so I'm initializing the counter. So then in React, guys, when you get a button, you can do something like that. On click equals, and now with curly braces, because we are gonna use some JavaScript expression here. So then the idea is to increase the counter. So I told you a couple of minutes ago that in JavaScript there are some conventions, and you need to get used to them. Yeah. So one of these conventions is when you get a button, when you get a non-click event like this one. So the way it works is this is a function. So inside of the curly braces, you got a function. And the sooner you just get used to the syntax, the better. Yeah. So don't try to ask yourself, why is that? Why JavaScript? Who did that? Right? Just get used to that. So that's the syntax you need to type when you got a button. So you get a button, and then once that function is called here, you do your magic. So you can do something like count equals count plus 1. I don't know. Once again, guys, don't fall in love with this algorithm because that's not gonna work. But I'm just trying to expose what will I do if it was the very first time I'm playing with React. You see, I have a function, and the function displays a button and a message. So when I click on the button, I increase the counter. So then the message will say you click 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, or whatever. So will the click count component be displayed on my screen? Yes or no? Hello? That's correct, Elena. That's correct. Look, we've declared the component, regardless of whether it works or not, if it looks right or wrong, I don't care. The first thing is, hey, you got a component, you need to display it, right? That's the first thing. And then we'll talk about details. Click out. Okay, fair enough. So now let's go back to the web browser and let's see what happens. So if I refresh the page, let me zoom the screen a bit. You see, that looks good, right? That looks good. So I got my component. You click 0 times. So guys, do you think that what should happen in theory when I press the increase the counter button? Will it display you click 1 time or 1 times? It should, right? Let's have a look. No, you see, I'm clicking, I'm pressing the button like hell, but you get no updates. In other words, React is not reacting, if you accept the weird expression here, React is not reacting to the user change. I'm trying to tell React, hey, whenever you click on the button, then do something. Actually, is that on-click event being called? I'll show you. So that on click is working. If I'm not sure you've seen that, guys, something called alert. This is very old fashioned, by the way. So you know when you visit a website and you get a message, hello, you are visitor number 1 billion, you get like a dialogue, a pop-up in the middle of the screen, a very annoying message. So you see, You can display messages like that. Don't do that, guys, today in 2020, right? Because that's completely annoying, and no one will visit your web application again. But technically speaking, you can add this sort of messages. Yeah. So you see, so whenever I click on the button, I got the message. So the click event is working. However, that's not enough to reflect my change. So how can I solve the problem? There are two different techniques. I'm gonna show you the classic one today, and then we'll run a new session on the next week. More precisely, that's next Wednesday. So next Wednesday at the same time, I'll show you a different technique to solve the same problem, and we'll obviously analyze the pros and cons of each technique. So today I'm gonna show you the classic. And the classic way of solving the problem is by adding a state. Yeah? So when talking about React, there are two types of components. We got the stateless components and the stateful components. A stateless component, to simplify things, is just a function. You see, when you have a function, that's stateless component. When you have another function, that's another stateless component. So if you want to have stateful component, you need to create what we call a class. Someone actually a few days ago asked what a class was, what we have sometimes classes instead of functions. So this is the first approach towards using classes. A class is a component written on a different way and more powerful. Let me put all these things in quotes, because next Wednesday we'll see how things are quickly changing in React. Yeah, but for now, or at least historically speaking, classes have been more powerful than functions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to recreate this function using a class. I'll leave it there at the bottom for reference purposes. And now, guys, you need to pay attention to the syntax, because that's important. So to write a stateful component in React, you have to type class, then the component name, click count, that's the same, yeah. And now you need to do a couple of weird things. So first of all, you have to tell React that this is not a plain class, that's a React component. To tell that, you have to type the following: extends react.component. Again, don't ask me why. Don't ask yourself why. Just do it. That's the syntax, guys. Just do it. And now, when you have a class, you can think a class as some sort of state machine where you can define a list of callbacks, a list of events that will be triggered by React. The first one is what we call the constructor. Once again, get used to that. And even further, when you have a constructor, you have to type super. So guys, that's the way you initialize a class in React. Once again, just do it. Just type it. Yeah. Don't ask yourself why constructor and not builder. I don't know. Just do it. Yeah. Just do it. And now, how do we display some stuff using a stateful component? You have to type something called render. And when you got the render, then you can return a piece of HTML or JSX. So technically speaking, you can actually paste the same content. You see, something like that. Let me replace the counter. I'm gonna use alert hello. Yep. I'm not gonna play with the counter yet. I just want to display. I just want to prove how to migrate, how to transform a classic function. Sorry, a classic component using a function with a stateful component using a class. Yeah. So both components are equivalent. You may be thinking, hey, but the function at the bottom is much easier to read, it's much easier to write, less boilerplate code, and you are right. You are right, guys. You are right. But historically speaking, function components were not as powerful as class components. Yeah. So that's why I think it's important to have a basic understanding about how classes work in React. So once you got that, let's see what happened on the web browser. You see, everything is the same, because technically speaking, I've been migrating, I've been refactoring my code, but from a user point of view, you see, everything works the same. So no problem at all. Do you have any questions, guys, so far? No? All right, so now is where we start with the fireworks. Now we start with the complexity of this workshop. So a class is a stateful component. Stateful means there is a state. And what a state is? A state means data. Whatever the data is, could be a string, could be an array, could be an object, data, right? Variables that whenever these variables change, React will redisplay. That's the point. That's the point. So it's a special data that whenever that data changes, based on user interaction, based on whatever, the component will be redisplayed. The user interface will update. And so how do we deal with that special data? Pay attention to the syntax. On the constructor method, we initialize the state. Pay attention to the syntax. This is not the state. And now, generally speaking, we'll pass an object with our data. So the data is going to be counter 0. Yep. So that's the way I'm initializing my state. The message here is, whenever I change that variable, we'll see in a minute how can we update that variable, but it doesn't matter for now. Whenever we change it, React will redisplay. And now at the bottom on my render method, how do we bind, how do we display that counter? So once again, pay attention to the syntax. We have to type this.state.counter. This.state is an object. So if you want to access any properties of that object, you'll type this.state.counter. It goes without saying that we may have multiple properties on the state, but for simplicity reasons, let's create just one. So let's see what happened. Now, you see, I click 0 times. I'm not updating the counter yet. You see, that's not working yet. We'll solve it in a minute. But for now, I'm just preparing the exercise. So let me present you something before going any further. Yes, a friendly advice. Every time you are in a job interview, and actually I'll tell you something, this is not just about job interviews. I sometimes make a lot of emphasis on job interviews, but in reality this is just about good practices. So from now on, every time you work with React, every time you work with JavaScript, you should always have DevTools open. You should always do right click somewhere and then inspect. It feels extremely weird to interview a candidate and ask him or her some questions and then see how the candidate is struggling with the problem and looking around, checking, doing back and forth from the code to the browser, but with DevTools closed. Yeah, that smells. That the message the developer is telling you is, I don't have the ability to follow the right steps towards solving the problem. So when you go to a job interview, the first thing is, all right, I got a problem, thank you, blah, blah, blah. Let's keep DevTools open, because thanks to DevTools, we'll be able to interact, we'll be able to analyze, to debug the problem, the potential problems we may have to face. So let me show you something very nice, something very sexy. So far, I mean, we've been playing a bit with DevTools, right? I mean, we've been playing with HTML, especially with the CSS, right? So you've seen how to add things like background color, things like that, right? So we've seen that already. But now let's move one step ahead. So let's do something a bit more complicated. With DevTools, we can play with HTML and CSS, correct? But we can also play with JavaScript and with React. You may notice there is a tab called Sources. In my case, that's the third tab, but that's not necessarily in your case. You can arrange tabs by doing drag and drop. Yeah, so it's somewhere on top of your DevTools panel, you've got a Sources tab. So once you click on it, then you can open the JavaScript files that you are dealing with in VS Code. How do you open them? The easiest way is to search them. If you are using Windows, the way to search file is with Control-P. If you're using Mac, the way to search file is by typing Command-P. So once I type Command-P, I can type app.js. You see, and when I click on app.js, I see the file that I generated in VS Code. You see, that's exactly the same file. And you may be thinking, why is that relevant? Because I can add some breakpoints. You see, I got, guys, the line numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So I can do something super cool, something super powerful, which is I can pause, I can stop the execution of JavaScript anywhere, almost anywhere, let's say. Look, if I click on line number 8, you see that green shape on the left, and if I click on line number 12, you see that green shape on the left. So that means that if I refresh the page, JavaScript will stop here whenever the execution stops there, and JavaScript will stop there whenever the execution stops there. So from now on, you'll see I will ask you the same question often. Can anyone tell me what the execution order will be? And essentially I'm asking you, give me the numbers, 8 and then 12, or 12 and then 8, or 8 and 8 and 12, or 12, you know, whatever. A line can be stopped multiple times. So can anyone tell me what the execution order will be? Was it? So Vicky said 8 and 12, and then Maxim, I think, said 12 and 8. That's interesting. That's interesting. It is vital to have an understanding of what the flow is, because if you understand the sequence of steps in a JavaScript algorithm, you're in a much better position to deal with potential issues. So in this particular scenario, Vicky was right. Why Vicky was right? Because the constructor is the first operation that JavaScript does. We construct, we build the component. Yeah? And once we build the component, then we render whatever we need to render, to display. Yeah? So that's important. I'm gonna actually prove that theory in a second. Before proving that theory, let me alert you about something. Debugging, this is what we call debugging, guys, because we'll be able to stop the execution step by step. It sometimes fails. Unfortunately, it sometimes fails. If it fails at some point, that's fine, because I'll show you some tricks about how to deal with the situation in case that happens in a job interview. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time that we'll have problems. Yeah? So before trying to fix a problem, let's see if it happens or not. So guys, let's refresh the web browser and see what happened. Do you see, guys? You see what happened? So now my web browser displays nothing, literally nothing. Why it displays nothing? Because I'm pausing, I'm stopping the execution of my algorithm on line number 8. You see, the constructor is the first method that JavaScript and React renders. And then you see the tiny button, the play button, resume script execution, or the shortcut F8. When I click on that blue button at the bottom, you may got it on the right hand side, by the way, guys. So when I say the bottom or whatever, just be careful, because it may be, you can see if I increase the size of my DevTools, now suddenly it's on the right, but it doesn't matter, right? It's somewhere, just find it. So resume script execution. When I click again, you will see, sorry, I need to refresh, and eventually it will stop on line number 12. You see? So first 8 and then 12. Let's do it again. Actually, it's stopping. Sorry, guys. So it should stop only once on the constructor and only once on the render. Let me refresh the page. I told you that sometimes the caveat of this process, the drawback, is that sometimes the tools is not as reliable as it should be. But let me try again. So you see, guys, now it's even worse. I told you that we may face issues. I wasn't expecting issues so early. You see, if I refresh the page, DevTools is not stopping anymore on line number 8 or on line number 12. That's a good thing, because then I would like to show you how to deal with this sort of problems. There are multiple ways of, solving the problem. So the first thing I will do, I'm going to be very polite. And if my polite actions don't take any effect, I will become more and more aggressive, more hooligan, until the web browser does what I want to do. So the first thing I will try to do is I will try on incognito mode. You know, guys, that when you play with the web browser, I'm particularly talking about Google Chrome, you got some extensions, right? And the extensions sometimes can interfere. They can have some impact on the code that you run. So to discard that variable, I'm going incognito, because on incognito mode you don't have any extensions. So just to check whether that's a problem with my extension, with my local extensions, I'm repeating the process again on incognito. I open DevTools, I go to the sources tab, and then I search for the file, Command P. You see, you got that on DevTools. You got that hint. So app.js. And then I will add the breakpoints again, line number 8 and line number 12. So let's refresh the browser. Let's see if it works this time. You see, that's still not working. I mean, technically speaking, that's bullshit, guys, because that's a problem we shouldn't worry about. But hey, I think it's important to have the ability of dealing with this type of issues. If incognito doesn't work neither, I'm gonna be more aggressive now. And being more aggressive means there is a special keyword in JavaScript. That special keyword is called Debugger. If you type the word debugger, which is a keyword in JavaScript, Google Chrome will definitely listen to you. Let's prove it. You see, now after refreshing the page, just because I type the word debugger, actually let me try to refresh so we can see that from scratch. So just give me a second. It's refreshing. It sometimes takes a while to refresh as well. So it's sometimes a bit difficult to deal with this type of issues. The browser is taking like 30 seconds to render. That's not good, right? So let me go back to incognito. Actually, that's not incognito. So yes, let me finish that and let me refresh. So just give me a second. You see, so I got the 2 debugger instructions, and hopefully here you go. You see, so now my browser is stopping on the constructor. So if I resume the script, it should stop on line number, I'll show you on line number 13, because I got the second debugger in there, right? So let me refresh the page to show you again. I understand, guys, that's a bit confusing. I'm not against that, but I think it's important as well, right? So the sooner you get used to DevTools, the better, right? So I got the debugger on line number 8. If I resume the script, it's stopping twice there. It shouldn't stop twice. That's a bit confusing. I cannot tell you why it's stopping multiple times. If nothing works as expected, I'm not very happy with that, guys. I'm not very happy because I had to be very, very aggressive. Next thing I will try to do, that wasn't planned, to be honest. This is one of the things I didn't plan to do, but because this is happening, let me try something different web browser. If you are using a Mac, Safari used to be quite reliable when talking about debugging. If you're not using Mac, I think you have Safari on Windows as well, but if not, you can use Firefox. Yeah. So long story short, there is an issue with Google Chrome. You may have heard that Google Chrome is becoming the new Internet Explorer, and that's the reason. It used to be very reliable in the past, but now it fails a lot. And I got the feeling, I've been using Google Chrome since 2009, from the first release pretty much, that it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse over time. So back to Safari. I'm going to repeat the same process. Yeah, I think that's good, guys, to move away from your comfort zone, try different things, try different browsers from time to time. That will give you some sort of resilience. So the process is very similar. Thankfully, browsers are very similar today, guys. So right-click, inspect element, and now I got DevTools on the right-hand side. So that's pretty much the same thing. So there are some minor UI differences, but it's pretty much the same. So then I select sources, and then I will try to find the app.js using the same shortcut, Command P on Mac, Control P on Windows, and now let me try to refresh the page and see if the browser is stopping on the debugger instructions. Now, right, there are some weird things I don't really add it. I don't know why now we got these weird breakpoints, but that's fine. Don't panic, we'll continue running, and then eventually you see that I got my debugger, I got my line stopping on the constructor. If I click again, eventually I have my debugger stopping on the render method. Yeah. The only thing I don't really understand yet is why the hell it's stopping twice on the constructor and why the hell it's stopping twice on the render method. That shouldn't be the case. There is something fundamentally wrong somewhere, and I cannot tell you at the moment, because the constructor only runs once. So I cannot fully tell you why this is happening. Let me introduce some changes. Let me get rid of the commented code. That shouldn't make any impact. Let me get rid of the debugger again, because Safari should be reliable enough. So back to Safari. Let me refresh the page. And let's see where we are. So I go to sources. I open the app.js, and then I will add some breakpoints. Yeah, that's a bit strange, to be honest, but let's see if it works. So we got 2 breakpoints again. Let me refresh the page. Then I think it's fair to say, guys, that because I'm streaming and I'm recording, my laptop is about to blow up, right? And that's not helping. It doesn't used to be as bad as it is at the moment, because now, you know, it's completely fucked. It doesn't matter what they do, it's just ignoring me. So let me try again. Eventually, yeah, that's a bit strange, you see. So now I got my breakpoints stopping on weird lines. Yeah, that's obviously not helping. It's definitely stopping on the constructor. It's definitely stopping on render. And now, all right, let me try again. I'm just trying to find a pattern, guys. I'm trying to find a pattern. So constructor, render. Yeah, there is something not quite correct, guys. There is something not quite correct with DevTools. And because I don't want to ruin the productivity of this session, what can we do? Maybe ignore the breakpoints for now. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's not helping, guys, because it's very slow. It's not working fine. So there is something wrong with the breakpoints. Once again, the situation of my laptop is not helping. But you can see it takes a lot of time to react. Yeah, as soon as I refresh, I get redirected to a weird file. I don't even know what the hell that means, and eventually I got my my main component presented. So let me do the last attempt. If it doesn't work, I will skip the breakpoints and I will just tell you how it should work, and that's pretty much it. So you see, now it's not stopping on my breakpoints anymore. So that's completely ruined. Yeah, that's completely ruined. Yeah, all right. So sorry about that, guys. This thing happens. That's the things about live coding. The breakpoints are not working. I'm 100% sure that's not our fault, because essentially the breakpoints are correctly set up. A way to prove whether this is our fault or not is, if it was our fault, if I refresh 100 times, the result should be the same. Yeah? Same input, should always generate same output. If I run the code 100 times, if the first execution is wrong, it should be at least consistently wrong. However, if I refresh the page 100 times, on the first time it stops twice on the first breakpoint but not on the second. On the second time it doesn't stop at all. On the third time it stops 40 times. On the fourth time it stops somewhere else. That means something is fundamentally wrong somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna skip the breakpoints thingy. So the way breakpoints should work is, first of all, we should run the constructor. That's the first thing, yeah, because this is where we set up everything. Once we set up the constructor, we run the render method. We display our user interface, as you can see here. Yeah, I got an idea, guys, because I don't like to give out that easily, and because unfortunately I cannot use the breakpoints today. Let me try something. I'm gonna close my windows, and rather than adding breakpoints, I'm gonna do something a bit dirtier, but effective, hopefully. I'm gonna add some console log. Console log, this is the constructor. You know, guys, a console log is a message that you can display on the DevTools. So I'm gonna display a console log into the constructor and another console log into the render method. This is the render. Yep. And let's see if that works or not. So if I refresh the page, yes, hold on, please give me a second. I got the console logs there, and then you got the console logs at the bottom. Yeah, I'm actually, you know, there is something wrong, and I cannot tell you why. It's running twice, right? Maybe it's by default. Am I doing something silly, guys? Am I calling the click count component twice? No, right? This is just once. So why the hell is it running it twice? I mean, if I comment it, there is no click count at all. Yeah? So now it shouldn't have any console log. You see, that's correct. That's correct. So no click count, no console log. But if I enable that single component, I got it just once. What happened this time? You see, it's displaying it twice. There is something wrong somewhere, guys, and unfortunately I cannot tell you why and where. But anyway, let's ignore this messaging because I don't want to deal with that sort of unexpected stuff. So the constructor will be the first method. It will run once and just once. Trust me, right? Because if that's not the case, I will give up and I will open a restaurant somewhere, right? So the constructor will run just once and the render method will run just once in this occasion. Yeah, that's the setup of the problem. So now, remember, guys, let's recap a bit because we had a bit of a nightmare here within this process. So whenever I click on the increase the counter button, I want to increase the number. You click 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. Yeah, that's the goal of today's exercise. So how do we do that? Let me present you a way to solve this problem. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new method. And the name of the method will be something like increase counter. Pay attention to the syntax. That's a function in JavaScript, but that function belongs to a class. Yeah? So you don't type the word function as you've been typing so far. Yeah? The syntax is slightly different because we are creating a function or a method inside of a class. Yeah? So the syntax is slightly different. And now, we are gonna call that function. Pay attention to the syntax. This dot increase counter, and then you call the method. Whenever we click on the button, we call that method. To prove that theory, before going any further, before doing any exotic change, let me add another alert. Hello, people. Because I want to make sure that increase counter method is actually invoked. So if I call that button, hello people, yeah, it was fine. If I click again, hello people. All right, so that gives me some sort of confidence that we definitely need after all the issues we're having. Yeah. So hello people. And now the question is, can anyone figure out how can I update? How can I increase the counter? Eventually that's the right answer, but that's not what you will think about the first time you face that problem. So the first time you come across that problem, you will do something like this.state.counter equals this.state.counter, what else? +1, something like that, right? Something like that. Yeah. So that's what everybody, including myself, will do the first time you work with React. Yeah, I got a variable, fantastic. Once you accept that this is the right syntax, this is the counter. All right, so when I click on the button, I will increase the counter. So let's see what happens if I click on the button. Nothing. It doesn't work. Why it doesn't work? Let me show you. That's the reason why I wanted to add some breakpoints, because with breakpoints you can visualize the execution flow in a very elegant fashion. But because we don't have breakpoints today, guys, you will have to trust me. So when we refresh the page, we run the constructor once, we run the render function once, and that's it. Yeah, this is when we refresh the page. Look, you got so many weird things on the right hand side. That's that's not helping definitely. But anyway, first constructor, then render. That's the first thing. Yeah. When you click on the button, then you run the increase counter method. Will the render method be executed again after we increase the counter in that way? What do you think? No, that's correct. React is not re-rendering. It's not re-rendering. Because React is not re-rendering, then it doesn't matter if we change the value of whatever we want. The user interface won't be redisplayed. So that piece of HTML won't be re-evaluated again. In other words, whenever we change the state, we have to tell React, hey, I'm changing the state because, and just because, I want to redisplay my user interface. That's the point about the state, guys. You want to change the user interface. You want to update your UI. What do you want to update? Well, that depends. In this particular case, we just want to change that number from 0 to 1, from 1 to 2, and so on, right? So, as I think Lauren suggested, the way to tell React, I want to trigger two operations. I want to change my state, yes, but I also want to redisplay my user interface. The way you do it is not by reassigning the variable, is by typing the following. Pay attention to the syntax, which is a bit special, guys. This dot set state, which is a function that you call, and then inside of the parentheses you pass an object with the properties that you want to change. Which property do we want to change, guys? Counter, correct? And what's the value? What's the new value of the counter? Counter +1. That's controversial. This state.counter. Do we have any variable called counter? No. The variable, the name of the variable, the full name of the variable is this.state.counter. That's the correct syntax. Yeah. So you said, hey, I want to update the counter of the state, and the new value will be whatever the state was +1. That's the right way of updating the state and re-displaying your user interface. Let's prove that, guys. If I refresh my page, pay attention, because if everything went as expected, that number will change in a second. You see, thanks to set state, I can change my message as many times as I want. Questions? Guys, I don't believe you don't have any questions. That's literally impossible. You may have questions. Yeah, of course, you must ask something. Because yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you mean that we are writing this to the state equals twice? I'm not following you, Vicky. Vicky, please, let's do something. Send me a screenshot later on, because I'm, yeah, and regardless of what that is, this is gonna make everything just more complicated, right? So let's just focus to the most simplistic way of representing this state, which is what I type here. Yeah. What else, guys? More questions? If you don't have any questions, I got a question for you. I got an exercise. The last part of this workshop is going to be driven by you. I want you to add a new button to reset the counter. I want to add a button, so whenever I click on the button, the counter will start at 0 again. So, who wants to start? There is half a point for each person who gives me a meaningful partial answer. So is that Max? Max, all right. Yeah, but I don't want to carbon copy. I want you to give me the right guidance about how to do that. Yes. That's the first button. Yeah. All right. So what? So Max, sorry for interruption. So essentially, try to be precise. The way you will tell someone in a pairing exercise is, we want to add a new attribute. So guys, this is an attribute. Yeah? So we want to add a new attribute. The key of the new attribute is going to be on click with capital C, correct? And the value of the attribute is going to be what? So in other words, here what you want to say is, we are gonna create an arrow function. So when this arrow function is invoked, in other words, when the user clicks on the button, then what? Reset counter, like that. Okay, so wait, give me a second. All right, guys. So Max, that was good enough, right? So you get half a point. And now, anyone else? I want anyone else to tell me what's next, essentially. So Elena, you know what? Reset counter. All right. What happened? What happened if I don't type anything here? Yeah, correct. It will look a bit weird. You see? There's nothing on it, right? So yeah, I like that, Elena. So reset button, for instance, and then what? Elena, Okay, that's fair enough. That's enough. That's enough. A nice one, Elena. Now, anyone apart from Elena and Max can please complete this exercise? Is that Lauren? This dot set state. Yeah. Can anyone help Lauren here? Like that? All right. Anyone else has a different approach towards resetting the counter? Ah, brilliant. Easy peasy, guys. You want to reset the counter, right? What the hell are you doing? So, guys, I'll tell you, there is a way to evaluate how good developer you are. So, to me, the way is build something, and when you fail, once you fail, and you get help from someone, try to find how different what you built was from the eventual solution. And to be more precise, how much more complicated your code works, what code was. Yeah. So that's classic. When working with junior developers, you get some, so they contact you because they need some help. And then you realize that here they did this dot state, square bracket, counter, different. Blah. You say, what the hell? Wait, what the hell are you doing? You just want to reset the counter. It's a 0, right? Yeah. That's why I told you that eventually, one day, guys, you'll make 1,000 a day just to add a comma somewhere. But it will be very tough to find where the comma goes, right? But it's the way the software works. So yeah, as Elena said, this dot state counter equals 0. So back to the web browser, increase, and now if I press the reset button, boom, the counter is reset. It's set to 0. Yeah. Any questions? What if I want to add a third button to decrease the counter? I don't want to reset it. I want to decrease it. Who wants to start up? Anyone apart from Elena, Lauren, and Max? Vicky, you can create a new button. Where? In the import? Below the second button. Okay, fair enough. So you got to create a new button. Here's a new button. Oops. Yep. Arrow function, yeah. Okay, wait. That's enough. That's enough, Vicky. Thank you very much. So you, yeah, we'll ask someone else. So anyone apart from Elena, Lauren, Max, and Vicky can tell me what's the next step. Maxim. Like that? In the button? Text. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Okay, fair enough. That's enough, Maxime. Thank you very much. anyone apart from Elena, Lauren, Max, Maxime, and Vicky can complete the exercise? So this is a question, I mean, we got many people connected here, right? So we got either Aaron or Elijah, or Aaron, Elijah, and Lorraine. I don't think Lorraine is corrected. Rafa is not connected. He was connected. So does Aaron or Elijah know how to complete that line decrease counter? This does set the state. All right. What else, Elijah? Yeah, but I don't want to copy and paste. I want you to tell me the instructions to follow, right? So what else, Elijah? Parentheses? Yeah, okay. Yep. Curly braces or curly brackets? Yep. What do you think, guys? Is Elijah right or wrong? Cool, perfect, brilliant. Thank you, mate. That was fantastic. Well, let's prove it, right? Let's prove it if it's right or wrong. So we got the increase, we got the decrease. Oh, brilliant, it works. Increase, decrease, lovely, nice. And then eventually the reset button. Cool, this is looking really great. And now the last two questions. Anyone can participate. Let me give some points for Elijah, well deserved. So imagine that I'm doing a pull, someone is doing a pull request. On task number 13, you will learn what the bloody hell a pull request means. Yeah? But that's a way that you can get your code reviewed properly in working as part of a team. Yeah? And as part of that pull request, if anyone sends me that piece of code, I may complain about a few things. To me, that's far from being perfect. The first thing is, I'm not a big fan of having 3 methods to do similar stuff. I'm particularly talking about increase and decrease. Can we merge both methods? Because they are doing the same. You see, they are literally copy-paste. The only thing that changes is the number we got at the end. So is there a way to combine, merge, join, however you want to call it, these 2 methods into a single one? So no if statements alone. So the only method I'm gonna have is I don't know. I don't know why I'm always thinking about the same person. But you need to solve the problem. You need to solve the problem by calling that function. That's all you know. Say it again, Mickey. If we pass as a reference, I don't know what you are talking about. Well, what passing as a reference means. So anyone is invited to participate to get half a point. The price is going up, guys, every second. Elena? I don't know. You tell me. Okay, all right. So you want to call that function. Where? Increase and decrease. in reset. No, I don't want to touch the reset because reset is special. So, that's all we know. It's up to you to complete the exercise. No. I don't know, you tell me. What do you want me to type? When we initialize it, line number 8, but that's okay. Guys, don't, once again, you are making it more complicated than it is. I just want to change line number 13. That's it. Or maybe something else, but for now, let's focus on line number 13. 1.6 points. Ah, sorry. You see, Elena, when you get all this red underlying code, VS Code is very polite, it's very British. I want to tell you, don't even check the browser because this does not gonna work, right? All right. Yes, increase and decrease. You got it, right? Both increase and decrease are calling the Boris Johnson method. But now it's up to you to tell me, what do I have to type here? Compare? No, I don't want to compare. I don't want to add any if else or any ternary or any. I don't want to do any of that, guys. First things first. What the bloody hell do we want to do here? We want to change the state, right? So this dot set the state, and what do we want to change? The counter, and then we'll see. We'll see what we need to do here. But that's the first thing, right? Because if you do that, you may succeed or you may fail, but at least you prove that you follow the right steps. If the first thing you tell me is, can you create a new file, and on the new file, can you check the playlist of Backstreet Boys? That proves that you are completely disconnected from the exercise, right? So, naturally speaking, that's the first step. We want to change the state, let's change the state. So now, what we know is the counter will be whatever the counter was. It could be +1 to increase, or -1 to decrease. Yeah? That's all we know. +1 or -1. So can we do plus Jeremy Corbyn? Can anyone for half a point tell me what else do I have to do to complete this exercise? So what do you want me to do, Lauren? All right, that's okay. 1 point, guys. Who wants 1 point this week? Yeah. That's very interesting. That's very, 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 very interesting. Boom. You see? So Elena is absolutely right. You see? So we are passing an argument, which is Jeremy Corbyn, and then we can, increase here. We can tell the difference, +1 or -1. Yeah. Look at how powerful the Boris Johnson method is. We could increase +2 if we want, right? Or +3. We could, you know, we could build some magic. Look, 4, 6. You know, we can do whatever you want. So that's fabulous, Elena. You get an extra point. You are winning this week, by the way. 2.5 points so far. Cool. Yeah. So that's correct. That's correct. And now, if you are the tech lead of the project you are working for, and you get that pull, you have to review this code. What would you approve it or not? And if not, what would you change? Okay. Okay, fair enough. To what? Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Fantastic. To what? Change number. All right. So, yeah, change number. You remember, guys, you can easily rename functions with pressing F2. So now I can type change number, for instance. Increment, nice one, yeah. Because an increment can be negative, yeah. Okay, interesting. Well, what else? So cool. Thank you, Maxim. What else, guys? Would you approve that code? Would you change anything else? Yeah. No. Why? Why you want? Do you want to put curly braces here? So. No. Stop, Picky. You're making it more complicated, right? So that I think that's simple enough. Just pass a number and then you increase or decrease the value. So will you change anything else? Any elegance warning? Anything? No? Would you approve it? Why? The ruler. Correct, Elena. You see, guys, don't cross that line. Yeah. So let's break things a bit for readability purposes. And of course, please indent the code correctly. Yeah, cool. Nice one, Elena. Anything else? Yes, brilliant. I was waiting for that, Lauren. Yes. Guys, one of the most typical issues, one of the most typical mistakes junior developers do is mixing semantics. Look, we are using the word counter. Suddenly, we change to number. We are using number and counter without any criteria. That's horrible. Eventually, guys, I'll tell you something. Here you got one variable, fair enough. But you may have 5 variables. You may have 10 variables. Eventually, it could be really challenging to understand your code. Because of that, the simpler, the better. I don't care if you call it counter. I don't care if you call it number. But use a single terminology. Yeah. So I don't care, seriously, I don't care which one you use. I don't care if you are wrong, but if you are wrong, at least be consistently wrong. And here we are not being consistent at all. So let me rename number with counter. Yeah, change counter, reset counter, increase the counter, reset the counter, yeah, decrease the counter, counter. I don't want any single reference to the word number at all. None from a technical point of view, and none from a user perspective. So now if I refresh the page, increase the counter, reset the counter, decrease the counter. Yeah, now I think that's a bit more consistent. Cool. Any questions, guys? No, right. That workshop took longer than expected, in part because of all the technical issues we had with the breakpoints. I'm gonna share this snippet on Slack. So once again, you are more than invited to play a bit with the algorithm, copy and paste it, change values, try to understand it, and if you got any questions, please let me know. You know where I am. Apart from that, thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you later on. Yes, it's yeah, you got it on YouTube already. If you go to if you go to youtube.com/codery/videos, you'll find it. It's fair to say that it's